all this campaign of energy beams and zappings and all the rest of the pranks caused me to be through a police action, which they just sort of jumped on me from nowhere, so I assumed they were teleported because I never heard them arrive. And all of a sudden they had their guns pointed on me, and then they took me into hospital involuntarily. And then I was kept there for 5 months. There were no change in my so-called condition. And then the patients were really on top of gang stalking there, and I eventually felt that they were all operatives in some capacity. They were not really patients at all. So I was allowed out in 2003. I got my own place, and then the same kinds of things started going on, although without the debilitating pain, so I could actually function. But they had something else lined up for me, and that was to then cause a number of pranks and harassment to infuriate me. Things would drop out of my hands, they would poke and jab me, and still do this, by the way, and they would, things would slip and fall and break, or, the knife would somehow cut me, and it was all about infuriating me, making me extremely annoyed at this harassment. And also, I think part of it, too, at that time I still thought I was only harassed. Didn't realize mind control was part of it. So then they would control my reaction to immediately fly off the handle, which I don't normally do. And then they proceeded to, that was a problem for the landlord, and then I, moved, I don't know, 5 times, I think, in the city now. And then they stopped doing that level of infuriation in 2005. And so then I rented my next place. They would make me mad sometimes, but not to that degree. So then I could eventually establish a better renter record than I had. And they infuriate me, but not to the level that they did for some 2 years. And so this is where I've been at, gang stalking with either vehicles when I had my car until 2005, and then various colors. I had 6 red vehicles around me and some whites, and you could see they were starting with whites, silver grays, and blacks, and then moving in more difficult colors, for them, reds, greens, and the top of the most difficult is the brown colors.
Okay. John, why do you think you became a victim?
Well, that's an interesting story, which I will address. I thought it was because I put my resume on the web and eventually got a job in Seattle. And then it occurred to me that my family was involved in this, my ex-wife and my daughter, who was 10 at the time, or 11. And I assumed that somehow they were all engaged in cooperation, the 2 brothers as well. And since 1999 or 98, that's when I thought it began. But then they give me a little piece of the story every sort of few months, and then I realized that I had been in this world of controlled, scripted world of mind control and mind control research, and also other research since I was born, and that I've been basically living in a fraudulently schemed life. And then when I understood that, then I understood why my ex-wife behaved so weirdly at times. And then other people as well. Everything came into place. Like once I understood the harassment and what they seemed to be going for, like colors and having people pass by me close if they could, and I understood that whole scene, then I realized, well, this is what other people were doing at other times. They engaged me in conversation, and on then immediately stop. Well, that had been going on, decades before, as an example. So I believe that it's very likely that my parents, born in 1924 or 5, were also involved in this in their early years, probably not from birth, but in their developmental years, say around anywhere from ages 5 to 10, and that this is a familial line, if you will, of being experimented upon. That's my understanding of where it's at.
You had talked about having ADD. Many TIs suffer many different diseases from the electromagnetic weaponry harassment. Have you suffered from anything else physically?
Other than attention deficit disorder, I've had no major physical problems. In fact, since the harassment started, I've been totally healthy, except for the odd sort of crimp in my back or leg, which causes me to be imbalanced, or something relatively small that goes away within the day. But before that, I had some wicked flus, and I could not figure out how I contracted them. And then sometimes a wicked flu, and then you think, okay, my immune system is really strong, I'll be okay. All of a sudden, bang, another one within 2 weeks. So they've not physically harmed me, apart from, well, actually it was a few months ago when I got punched on the street, but apart from that, no, I have not suffered from any what I would call biological harassment.
Have you suffered from sleep deprivation, though?
Sleep deprivation in terms of keeping me up all night, even in this sort of more calmer period of harassment, and as well as in the driving I did all night. But I've always had the energy to do a full day's work without feeling tired. Since this harassment began in overt form in 2002.
Have you suffered any home invasion, any damaged property, or ripped clothing, or car tampering?
Yeah, I've had all of that. Nothing too significant. I've had, door locks replaced, and then the next day there's dirty hand marks on the wall. I have things stolen, some countermeasures, things that were stolen. I've had various things lifted from my car because they were I think because they were a certain color, or it was a certain plastic they didn't want me to have. They've stolen clothing that'll have affiliations either with my employer, the name of my employer, the Ministry of Force. I'll go into other employers. But I had something that showed the name of the firm, and that got stolen. Normally, they don't really do too much stealing from me, thankfully.
What about gaslighting, where they come in and they move an item just a little bit to make you think you're crazy? They move some of your items or furniture.
They will move some things. There are a number of little things that go on, 1 or 2 things a week. And I had the sense that they were testing my recall. And because it wasn't until 2006, or no, probably mid-2007, that they could really mess with what I could remember. And so there was all these little tests of moving things. Say, okay, that wasn't there, or that wasn't written down. Or they've added a page into or a link into my website, my blog. So they mess around with files on my computer. But there hasn't been anything too major in that respect, thankfully.
What do you think they want from you? Because many victims are pushed to suicide, homelessness, homicide, prostitution, and institutionalization. What do you think they want from you.